To many, flying their own airplane is just a dream never realized. But to these Shell Point women, flying was a goal that they not only achieved, but thrived at.
Well, I got my private pilot license in 1976 and began to build hours, wanted to get more experience. So I began flying with a distributor of Cessna, and so I was able to ferry airplanes, and that's how I was able to build hours. What we did was we flew out of Aurora Airport, which is near Chicago, and usually there would be about 5 of us that would sit in maybe a Cessna 206, which holds 6 people. And so one person would be the pilot. The rest of us would just fly with him down to Wichita, and then we would go to the airport where Cessna had a lot of new airplanes on the field, and then we would each get an airplane, and then we would fly it back to the airport that we started at to begin with. And then the next day we would go out and deliver that plane to the dealer that had purchased it. And then sometimes I would, or someone else would be the pilot that would be the chase plane pilot and go and pick up all the other pilots wherever they had delivered a plane. Well, my husband Tim is also a pilot, and so we flew with our family, and we have 1 daughter and a dog, and we would fly to visit family, or we would fly down to the Ozarks to go water skiing, which was fun. Landed at an airport where we'd come in over a mountain and land at an airport, or else we could come in over the water. So we did that very often. So trips just for fun, or for conferences, or for family vacations, that kind of thing is what we usually did. I have an instrument rating, and an instrument rating allows you to be able to fly in the clouds or in rain, or when the conditions are less than perfect for visual flying. You have to have special training for that, to be able to look only at your instruments when you're flying, not outside the airplane. So you have reference only to instruments. And in order to receive that training, you would have an instructor that would put something over the instruments like this. They put it over the instruments, so over certain instruments, and then only certain instruments you are able to use to fly with, like your altimeter and your artificial horizon is what it's called, that shows where the airplane is in relation to the ground. So then the pilot has to wear a hood, so you can only look at the instruments, and I have my hood. Whoops. So then I can only look at the instruments. I can't look outside the airplane. On days maybe when there's a cloud, there are clouds, and you take off, you go up through the clouds, and then maybe you'll be on top where it's sunny. And then there are times when you come back down through clouds, and you have to have the capability of doing it, and you have to talk to the air traffic controllers, and they give you permission, in other words, to make that descent through the clouds. It's safe because you're following your instruments, and you know exactly where your airplane is, you know exactly where you are, laterally, vertically, because you have instruments that tell you. Well, I'll tell you one of the most fun days that I ever had flying. My dad was a career Navy man and was a prisoner of war, so he had a pretty hard experience there, and after he got out of the Navy, he continued to work at the naval base as a barber. So one day, I was delivering a plane where I had to fly south over Memphis, where the Naval Air Station was that my dad worked at. And so as I was approaching the field, I called the controller and asked him if he would call the barber shop and tell my dad that I was just about to the airport and that I would rock my wings when I got next to the barber shop. And so he did that, and so I rocked my wings. My dad watched me as I flew by. So it was a real joy to me to be able to say to my dad, I've done something that you can be proud of. And it was fun for him, and it was fun for his barbershop mates to be able to see his daughter fly by. No, I'm not current now. I've basically retired from flying, except just occasionally go out and fly with an instructor. And the reason for that is it's expensive to fly a lot, and if you don't fly a lot, you're not a good pilot. So if I fly, I want to be a really good pilot. And so my husband and I have just decided that we will do it occasionally with an instructor and not be current. Well, I think it's interesting that at Shell Point there are so many people interested in aviation, and there are a lot of us that are pilots. Some of us are female pilots, and there are many who have been involved in other aspects of aviation, from helicopters to gliders to balloons to air traffic control, and just, I could go on, all areas of aviation. And aviation touches all of our lives because we all fly or in some way are associated with something that touches aviation. It just, and so many of us at Shell Point have learned a lot from each other because there are so many people in different areas of aviation. So it's been interesting to lead the aviation club. Well, I think we do feel a bit of kinship and camaraderie because
we know each other.
It's unusual. There aren't as many of us that fly, women that fly, and so we have some shared experiences that we enjoy talking about and sharing. But I think this will even make us want to spend more time together and get to know each other better. When I was doing my commercial training and was practicing spins, I remember stalling out, and then the wing would break and you'd fall over and you'd go into a spin. And I was instructed that I needed to kick opposite rudder and put the nose down to gain airspeed. And so as I was practicing this, one time I did it wrong. I made a mistake, and I said, oops. And my instructor said something that has given me a real good life lesson. He said, Jo, don't say whoops, recover. And so in every area of life, when you make a mistake or you goof up, you don't just say whoops, you recover.